morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Okay, well, a day after the big news of the, happy release of 82 girls, the government got them back, having negotiated with Boko Haram. And indeed, like updates, sort of, so to speak, we're hearing that the federal government is in talks with Boko Haram to end suicide bombings. You've heard of that. But as to the girls, how they actually were released, for some reason, there seems to be a strand of opinion out there that they weren't exactly happy with what we had to do to get the girls back. Why? So the stream would ask, did we have to exchange our girls for hardened criminals and that sort of a thing? Not very many people understand that particular line of argument, but it is out there. Then now, the other thing is, still in the polity, the vice president-led committee to investigate the whole matter of the haul of $48-odd million. What's going to happen to that? The report should have been submitted to the president. Was it submitted to the president? Nobody knows for sure. Maybe only the president knows for sure, and maybe also the spokesman for the acting president would know. Femi Adesina, the much that he would say is that he could confirm that there was a meeting between the vice president and the president before he left for abroad, and the submission of the report might have come up. Those were the exact words. The submission of the report might have come up. So I don't know what to make of that. Did he get it or did he not get it? Well, my guests this morning, thank you very much for coming. Dr. Luke Onyekekeya. He's a member of the editorial board of Guardian newspapers. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
And Colonel Tony retired. He's a security consultant. Thanks as always, Colonel, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Jubilation that we got the girls back, but there still are some issues to be cleaned up, or shall we say that we still have to go through. No doubt number one on the list is going to be the welfare of the girls, their rehabilitation. And well, unfortunately, this is not our first barbecue. We already received a bunch of girls, I think 22 of those back in the first instance. Now there is concern that the right thing is done by the girls because they must be handled. They become special persons with special needs, and so they must be handled in a special way. We can take that for granted. Let me start with you, Luke, if I could. Do you think we can take that for granted?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that majority of Nigerians are happy that 82 of these girls have been released. Because what happened to these girls is something that is traumatic to all of us, to the country. And so if after 2 years or more, so to say, now we just woke up one morning and the newspapers are telling us that 82 of them. I personally was excited on Sunday when I saw the headline. So that's the big news. Everybody is happy about that. Because at a point, it was like, I remember one former head of state who said, we should forget the issue of Chibok Girls, that it's like we cannot see them again.
He said President Obasanjo said he will be surprised if we see any of those girls again.
That kind of dampened the expectation or any hope of seeing these girls. But now, it is obvious that these girls were held somewhere and they are being released. So, now that we have gotten another batch, we first got a batch of 21. Now this is another batch of 82, very substantial number. So the issue of taking care of them is not something we should take for granted. We can take it for granted that government is in charge. And as at yesterday, government said they are going to take care of these girls. Their welfare, their education, their virtually everything. So, for me, these girls are national
assets, quite
frankly.
When you look at it.
Yes, so that at the end of the day, we see what becomes of them.
Indeed.
And in fact, that will even give Nigeria a better image.
What do you think, Tony? I'm trying to be... You see, because those girls are vulnerable.
Sure. Sure.
We are hearing that there are even some that rejected the offer of freedom, of release.
Sure.
There's no way we can confirm this, but we hear that some Chibok girls, as we now call them, actually refused to be released. That is probably what many people will understand as the, what was that syndrome now? The something, you know, the Stockholm syndrome. Where your captives begin to identify with their captors and do not want to be free. Think that people now don't understand them, that they're very nice people and that kind of a thing. So that sort of would hint for me at the vulnerability of the girls, and these ones that came out maybe made it, maybe happily, maybe by the skin of their teeth. Maybe all of this is the more reason why we have to be doubly sure that they have specialist care. And you're used to this thing being in the military, how prisoners are debriefed and that kind of a thing.
I think more than anything, I think we are grateful and we commend the government for its effort to have freed these girls. Particularly on the question as to what is to be done. I think there are almost 3 levels. One, physical rehabilitation, psychological, and of course, spiritual. And this is where I think 3 layers of people will work. You know, the psychiatrists will do their part, or counselors, and then people of faith would come in. We have to treat these girls very well, and also we must give comfort that their parents have to be brought into this, whatever we do. The idea of their parents being treated as if they are outsiders should be, I would say, re-looked at.
Was that an issue in the first batch that we had of 21, 22 girls? That, because I've heard, and I don't know how to confirm or not, that parents don't even have access to them, such as the isolation government has put them in.
I think this is where there's a need for balancing. The government needs to know that these children are traumatized, and for some of them, their captors, as it were, had been their relations. It's now to unwind this by bringing back the role parents play in a child's development.
Hopefully government itself is working with consultant psychiatrists that is advising how to go.
Indeed, I think the thing to commend government now is that in the way things are being handled, they are allowing universal good practices to take place. And this is why if you once saw the way the girls were released, it's very much, there were a lot of involvement of international organizations. And for a change, the government is not trying to play the usual play we play that we know what we're doing. It's allowing these people to play their role. I do hope this is extended, the people are allowed to play their role more. And this is where I think the government needs to be much more skillful.
Probably, thank you, Tony. Probably, Luke, the government has maybe learned lessons from the first time around. Even this time, they've been shielded away from public glare. We saw them just to sort of be able to attest. But this whole matter, as Tony was suggesting, about trying to politicize the victory over evil, no, none of that. They were ferreted in. There's an aspect of their privacy involved here. So government, I think, has learned that, look, there's no, it's a very, very important matter. The privacy of the girls is going to be part of their whole rehabilitation. Let me just go on this quick break, and then you come and react to that. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. We've got Dr. Luke Onyekekaya and Colonel Tony retired in the studio, and we're looking at the aftermath of receiving 82 girls and the specialist care that they're going to be needing. We're talking about the privacy as just one indication of the special needs that they do have that we might, in our whole euphoria the first time around, have missed. But this time around, it looks like government is really bent on crossing the T's and dotting the I's, which suggests that they might be listening to specialists and consultants in the field.
Thank you. What I have to say with regard to that is that, you see, these girls were abducted from their parents. They were not abducted from government. We're having kidnapping here in this country. People are abducted or kidnapped from their homes, from their parents, from their families.
In this case, from their school.
Now, in this case, they went from their home to the school.
That's right.
So when they were abducted, it's their parents, it's the families that felt
That's it.
the impact, the pain, more than any other person.
Sure.
So this one is special in the because it has lasted for a longer time. A lot have been kidnapped and released after 1 week, after 4 days, after 5 days. They don't go to government. Government doesn't take them in.
But these are children.
Now, these ones are children. Even we have had children who have been kidnapped and released.
You're right. But
within a short time.
Okay.
Government doesn't take them. Now, this one is special, as I said, because it has taken a longer time. It's a political issue, kind of. Now, what I would say is, in as much as government has to give maximum support, the parents and the families should not be kept out of it. There are some of these girls, these are youngsters, they are teenagers. There are some of them who will just hug their mother or their father or their brother or their sister, and they get well psychologically. No amount of psychological expertise from anybody will heal the need for you not to see your father or your mother or your brother or your sister. So I think we should tell government to allow some space for the families to be able to have access to these girls.
Okay. The other thing is that I imagine, because this is a delicate affair, even the parents themselves need counseling. True. Because you explain how this is a very special case. True. Not only were a whole bunch of girls, over 200, kidnapped at one go, they've been subjected to the most awful, horrible trauma. True. Additionally, enforced conversion to a foreign religion to them. We saw all the pictures. So there's so much going on so many levels that one should not underestimate the extent of the task that is before government, as Luke has explained. Sure. Right? That's the point that one has to hold. And I'm just guessing that the way I might react as a parent, I just react from gut. I'll grab hold of my son, my daughter. It might well be that there are specialist reasons why the parents will need to be counseled, prepared, that the girl you sent off to school that day, long ago, is very, very unlikely to be the girl that you're going to be receiving back because of all sorts of shocks. I'm just figuring out, because this is a lot of mental stuff, isn't it? Sure, it is.
And I think this is why there is, they're not taken straight to the society. There is an intermediary where they would, I would think, a meeting point between what the government is doing and what the parents would do. It's really traumatic experience these girls would have gone through to have, first, in many cases, it's like 2 years or 3 years in their life, it's been cut off. Secondly, the trauma of forced conversion to another faith tradition is a problem. And more than that too, this is the period, some of them, puberty, when they were growing into adulthood. Some, as we gather, were forced to marriage. This is another thing that has to be addressed.
And also, I'm sure, Tony, the fact that there are reports that some, at least, declined to be released. That shows that a lot of mental damage has been done.
That is it. That's why we have to really be sympathetic. But one thing I also, the signals of all these is that it does seem to me too that the Boko Haram are now beginning to, will I say, be much more civilized than they've been. And I think we need to take advantage of that to, I think there are good signs.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, I wouldn't have chosen the word civilized, but you did, but let it be. Because along that line, we're hearing that the federal government is in talks following the success with Boko Haram, not just to end, Chibok suicide bombings, but also to get more of our girls back. And it seems that there's every reason to be optimistic.
Sure, we have to be very optimistic. I personally, from day one, even though there were conflicting signals from the political arena, some were saying no girl was kidnapped. Some were saying all kinds of things. I never believed that.
Yes.
Now, what I have to say is, nothing is absolute. Wars are fought, they can last, but at the end, they come to an end. Do you understand? So, in the history of humanity, I tried to Google how many wars have been fought. More than 10,000 wars globally, more than that. Now, wars start at a point, they can last to a certain point, but they will stop. Now, the Boko Haram crisis is not going to be there forever.
And it certainly is a war.
Yeah, it's a war. No, it's a war. So it has to come to an end. The people fighting, they are human beings. They are not iron. They are not made of stone. They are human beings. They have feelings. They are also dying. They are also going through trauma. So, for me, for them to agree to release the girls, for me, is part of a necessity. It's a natural, follow-up that this war has to come to an end. And part of what will make it come to an end is for them to release these girls.
Indeed.
So I don't, I'm sorry to say, I don't see it as that they are more civilized. That is why they are releasing these girls.
I think perhaps they're on the back foot.
Yes, I don't believe that so much. Because
if that was an issue, they wouldn't have kidnapped those girls in the first time. It's too good for them.
It's too good for them.
No, I think I didn't say that they are more civilized.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I'm saying, in the light of furthering the negotiations, that this step they've taken is much more civilized. In other words, all their actions prior to this has been uncivilized.
Okay.
So
I hear you.
Yes,
I understand.
It's very good that in these things
they just were being more reasonable this time around.
Yeah. I think reasonableness is civilization.
Okay.
If you reason prevailing, it's civilization. Now, the point is, one of the things we have to be careful is that is the utterances we're hearing where, when we are in a institution like this, we have to be apolitical. That is, politicians should not be partisan. In everywhere else, the practice is, when it comes to national security matter, there is no partisan. Usually, the parties speak in one voice. So this idea of, I would think that the faction trying to should give credit to where it's deserved. And any commentary on the negative actually is in bad light.
Well, a lot of people would feel that way. Again, one being careful to sort of preserve everybody's right to free expression and free speech. But I don't know, Luke, what do you think about people who are picking bones with having to exchange prisoners for them? As I said, one just has to preserve everybody's right to speech.
Earlier, I think you mentioned that some of the things being done is in line with international
best practices.
So in this kind of situation, these girls are there suffering.
Sure.
There's no way you will have them, released without making some sacrifice. That's how it is globally. America, the greatest world power we have today. They do engage in these things. They may come openly and say no, but at the back,
they even pay ransoms. We hear.
They even pay ransom. So there is nothing wrong for me in whatever step government has taken to get these girls out. Nobody should be bothered about that.
I think that
the important thing is that these girls have returned.
I think that would be the point of view of most people, even as there is that tiny minority who can have their say while the rest have their way. That I can't see any problem with this at all. The girls, shifting a bit now to, because I don't know, the two of them, they're sort of intertwined, not directly, but the president is away. That has sort of intertwined things a bit. Let's look now at the whole question of how this whole thing is going to continue. The vice president has just finished this important assignment. We don't know whether or not the president got the report. The presidency has ruled out reversing the suspension of the NIA and the NIA boss and the secretary to the government. And so where do we now go from here? Everything depends on Mr. President. If he got the report, he can make his decision known. Even if he didn't get the report, these are digital times. You can get the report in a flash anytime. So we'll take a break and come back and look at how important that is, because a lot of people are beginning to make bones about this whole situation as well. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So, Luke, I was with you. Yeah. Do you think there's this whole matter about apprehension over whether or not the president got the report, whether or not a timely decision can be taken, would you see it as making a mountain out of an anthill?
I think so. Now, the important thing is that the vice president, who is now acting president, was a chairman of a panel that conducted an investigation. Now, getting the report over to the appropriate quarters, for me, it shouldn't be a big deal. There are options. We have somebody who is acting as president. The president can tell him to go ahead. Yes, he conducted the investigation not as acting president. He conducted it as vice president. Now he's at another platform. So there are two different things.
Different assignments.
Yes, there are different assignments. So he can, if it is, the desire of President Buhari to let the acting president to deal with it, he can go ahead and deal with it, because he is dealing with it not as vice president or chairman of panel again. He is now dealing with it as president. That is one option. The second option is, if it is the President Buhari that must deal with it, then we keep it on hold until he comes.
Or,
simple.
Well, okay, yes, until he comes, because he's actually signed off, as it were, by informing the National Assembly and transferring power.
Yes.
So
you've said it.
President,
you see, power has been transferred. I am really surprised why, once the president is transferred power to the acting president is the president. Good. I even heard yesterday someone saying whether the acting president is not the commander-in-chief. He is the commander-in-chief. And everything, the ball now stops in OSINBAJO's table. The other thing we should not confuse, an office and the person. The presidency, this is why it says, God, long live the Queen, just to use that analogy. The office of the president is continuous. So, in other words, whether the person who was VP is now acting or president, the presidential position is still there. In other words, as I see it, everything now, the vice president cannot be remotely controlled by anybody. He is acting president. So this is, I think we need to be very clear, because if anybody is to give any instructions now, it is the acting president. Yeah. Because the reason for acting is that the other person is not able to
it's not on ground.
It's not on ground. Not only not on ground, is not able to perform because he's having medical attention. So it's very clear about that, that as we know, and we must not confuse these things because...
you know, maybe, I don't know if it's helpful. When the assassination attempt on late President Reagan, that was unsuccessful, when Reagan was to go under anesthesia for the operation, for the couple of hours, there was a transfer of power.
Yes.
Just for the couple of hours, the president was going to go under. And when he came to, one of the first things they did was to take power back. But just in case, so it seems to indicate to me that the principle here is that there shall be no vacuum. For that time when the president was under anesthesia, therefore he was unconscious, let it not be said that the U.S. didn't have presidential leadership.
And the president, I must say, in his remarks, he said he has trusted hand. He's handed power to, which is something very, will I say, generous of a politician. It was, you know, because I think Buhari was, it was remarkable in that remark he made. And we must, you know, all along, some of us have always believed that Buhari is a unique person. The only problem we have is the political dinosaurs who are misleading him. And I thank God that we will have some breath of fresh air.
If I can say something.
Let me just bring in someone from home to join the conversation. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Uncle Yori, what Dr. Luke said is right, in my view. I think there must be a reason why the government has not allowed the parents to interact with the girls. Because the first batch that came, the parents were allowed to interact with the girls. Now they are still breathing and putting them in proper shape. It is when they meet members of their families that they will be, they will believe that they have actually come back. So I agree with the doctor. As for the panel, Mr. OSINBAJO was a member of that panel. As a panel member. Now he is the president, the acting president. The panel's report, if it has not been submitted, that is if they haven't finished their job. But Alan, they finished their job. If they have finished their job and he hasn't submitted it to the president before he left, he is now in a position to act on it. There is no more a member of that panel. He is the president as of today that can take a decision on that panel report. So there shouldn't be any dispute about it.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in. Quite frankly, there are a lot of people that understand it as simply as that. But then there's a whole other set of people who insist on making it so complicated what is not complicated at all. Bringing in sometimes irrelevant issues like doctrine of necessity, and you're wondering what's going on here. Why are people confusing? Is it just the way we are or something?
Can I say this? Right now, at this moment, there is no vacuum in leadership in Nigeria.
True. None.
Is there any vacuum?
None.
There's no vacuum. And so if there's no vacuum, there is an acting president who has that executive power. Let me add at this point that I am happy, and Nigeria should be happy with this President Buhari. In terms of him always handing over power to his vice, unlike what happened in the last dispensation, there was crisis because the president failed to do this simple act.
And even you go back to Obasanjo's presidency, Obasanjo Atiku. I mean,
that's another.
It just wasn't happening.
What would have happened if Buhari just travels and not handing over? We'll be talking of there'll be more problems than what we are experiencing right now. But he has calmed the waters by handing over power to his vice.
Indeed.
And so there's no vacuum in government.
Mr. ADEBAYO, calling in from MUSHIN. Good morning. Well, we thought we had a caller there. So we sort of sorted that out, that these people are, I mean, people, it's a democracy. So is Mr. ADEBAYO still there? Mr. ADEBAYO? Well, I understand you're there, Mr. ADEBAYO. Please join us, Mr. ADEBAYO. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead with your comment.
Hello.
Hello, sir. We can hear you. Please go ahead. There was a challenge with that line, I'm sure. Sorry, you were going to say...
No. Like you've said, I think everything is so far so good.
Yes.
All we need to do is also to commend the Bring Back Our Girls group.
Oh, yeah.
Their role has been unique.
Oh, that
and they should also be recognized for that role, and they should continue doing that.
Because they kept the fire burning.
They did indeed. Otherwise, things would have been, and also...
But in this connection,
yes,
Tony,
yes.
the government did this, this latest success from this government, it was done in complete secrecy. Nobody knew anything about it.
Sure.
There were no updates about look at what we're doing, or we're meeting with them tomorrow. No.
This is why one said that it was professionally done, and government and all the agencies.
It's just like when Obama announced that they'd taken Obama out. Osama. They're taking Osama bin Laden out. Nobody had an inkling until the final announcement.
That is the way security should go.
That's it.
You don't be planning to deal with your enemy and you announce it in there.
Which used to happen before, let it be said. People maybe didn't understand the politics of it.
When we were young in the village, you want to catch a bird. You say, you can't catch the bird when he's standing somewhere and he's watching you, putting a trap for it. It will not come to that nest on that night.
Good morning, Peter in Wari.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
I think my contribution to your discussion is this. With regards to what the retired colonel is saying, that we ought to be happy with the president because the president transferred executive powers to the VP. Now, I want him to also take into cognizance the fact that there is something called loyalty. I agree that the office of the president does not a person does not embody the office of the president. I agree to that fact, that even though the president is not around, the VP is there, to act on his behalf. But there are certain persons within the presidency that will still be loyal to that individual called Buhari himself, the president himself, who may not necessarily be loyal to the VP. So, we live in Nigeria. We have to be frank with ourselves. It's a different ballgame when the vice president is the president, and when he's acting, there's still a difference there. No matter how you want to look at it. So that's just my contribution. I don't think I agree with the retired colonel on that part. But with the doctor, I think I'm okay with his own views to also embody my own.
Thank you very much for calling in, Peter, and that perspective you're giving to us. Oh dear, where do we? How do we go here? I mean, the president has his staff, the vice president has his staff. I don't know whether the whole paraphernalia and staff of the president, of the vice president, now that he's acting president, have become upgraded, as it were, to serving now the acting presidency, or whether. So, what would be your comment on Peter's observation?
Can we leave all those?
Because
all those minute details.
Thank you. They're the minute details.
Yes, we leave the issues and we're looking at nitty-gritty that won't help us.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
whether if
you would just prefer the broad.
Laolo Akande, who is spokesman for the VP.
For the VP.
He's there when the VP is VP. Now the VP is acting president. He's still there.
And it is one presidency, by the way.
It's the same one presidency.
People keep on.
That's the thing.
We're constantly reminded that we're dealing with one presidency.
I think I share that, but I think the underlying point being made here is that the vice president should be allowed to function as the acting president, and that it should be as advised by the president himself, everybody should cooperate with the vice president.
I would have thought the president would have even underlined that before he left.
He did that. He did that.
You know?
But I think what the implication of what I think
Peter was saying
is that those political deniers should allow Nigeria be.
Okay, okay. Captain AMAHIAN calling in from FESTAC. Good morning.
Yes. Captain AMAHIAN.
Go ahead, Captain.
Right. Can I? Yes. I want to discuss on two issues. Yes. Good morning. I want to talk on two issues. One, handing over power, transferring power from the president to the vice president. That is a normal thing. First, it was done by the president when he was going on his annual vacation last year, and this year when he was sick. This is the proper thing to do according to the Constitution. Two, on the release of the Chibok Girls in exchange for terrorists. Normally, the Constitution of all countries in the world tell us that they don't believe in negotiating with terrorists. But underneath, they normally negotiate with these terrorists, and it is the final answer that we see when the hostages are released.
Thank you, Captain. Is that it? Thank you. I think for some reason there's a very bad case of talkback. Yes, but he got back on top of it. We'll go to a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, please. We'll continue with the program. Welcome back, the home stretch now, and 82 girls back, and there's still some more girls, you know, still with their captors, but hope is rising that we'll get those back too. Especially when you look, I think it is Dr. Luke Kekaya who had pointed out that, look, remember that a former president had said in the immediate aftermath that he'll be very surprised if you see those girls again. And he was an experienced general, so people tend to put a lot of weight on what he says. He knows about these things. But we're happy that, look, even he himself will be happy that he was wrong. Sure. Maybe they had overestimated Boko Haram's capabilities. And so here we are now. We have those girls back. They're not going to be the only people that are happy. Remember that we have to remember, and maybe our appreciation should go to the Bring Back Our Girls movement in Nigeria here. They started something that went viral all over the world. The former First Lady, Michelle Obama, world leaders, female world leaders, even male, everybody was on board that bring back our girls. So there are a lot of people that are going to be very happy. UNESCO, Red Cross, Red Crescent, the whole world was behind us, rooting for us to get our girls back. So this is very, it's sort of exhilarating, isn't it?
Sure. So you see, what was at play was, you know, this fact that the whole humanity share one God. Whether you are in America, whether you are in Asia, Japan, Europe, Africa, once you're a human being, you're a human being. The conscience is there, the mind is there, the feelings are there, and so on and so forth. So that is why the whole world rallied around when this thing. And probably put our own government on its toes if it had any intention to slack on the matter. Of course. Now, here at home, they Bring Back Our Girls group, you know, is the arrowhead championing that. No, in fact, after our president, or former president Obasanjo said, made his statement, you know, it was like these people are wasting their time. But it didn't dampen their urge. In fact, they now redouble their effort. And so all these protestations from all these various groups definitely must have pushed the government.
Was
you see, we're hearing,
exactly.
governments like Switzerland and the rest of them that participated, which we didn't know.
We didn't know until the president
there
started to express his appreciation
that are
to them. Exactly. ISHAQ, let me tell you, ISHAQ has been holding on for a while, and we thank you very much for it in Jos. Good morning. ISHAQ?
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to your guests.
Thank you. Good morning.
I'm ISHAQ Imam. I'm calling from Jos. On the issue of Chibok Girls, we appreciate the 82 and the Chibok Girls that were rescued. But my concern is the swapping and the negotiation with the faceless terrorists. So I hope there was a mechanism that was put in place to monitor the activities of the commandos that were released, so that they will not go back to terrorism acts. But I still want to urge the federal government to intensify efforts, their rescue operation, to ensure they rescue other people. We have thousands of people that were kidnapped aside from those Chibok girls. So I still want them to continue their stance so that every people that were hostage will be rescued. Indeed. On the pro panel that the VP was handling, now the acting president, I think in all the three men that were in the panel, the VP, the vice president, is in fact is the man of integrity compared to the 2%, because the Attorney General of the Federation had earlier cleared Babachir Lawal of any misdeed. And I will also understand that the DGNIA also indicted the security advisor that he doesn't know that the money were available. So I think the acting president can act now by submitting the report. His integrity is at stake. So I believe we hold him in high esteem. So we shouldn't allow anything that would dent his image. So I believe the report should come out on time, and those phone call people should be prosecuted. That's my take. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much for calling in, ISHAQ. I don't know.
No, the point I was going to make about Bring Back Our Girls, it was a chance for our women to take leadership. And I think the example set by most of the people who were at the forefront of Bring Back Our Girls were our women. And I think this is a lesson for all Nigerians that it's a high time the women equality, women are given a chance. Some parts of the country, women are kind of put at the back door. Women should be allowed to play their part. And because at times where women come in, they arouse more sympathy than anybody. And I think the role played by all the women who led the British Bunkers is is commendable.
Sure, and even as we speak, they're still at it.
That's it. That's it.
We put out a report by Femi Akonde yesterday. He went to Falamo, roundabout under the bridge there, where they've turned the whole place into a sort of a graffiti. It's like keeping it directly in front of our noses, not allowing us to forget. Mr. Michael calling in from FESTAC. Did I get that right? Good morning, sir. I think I did, but the line sort of went bad. Sorry about that, Michael. See if you can get in again. Thank God for people like that. So many different women. It will be unfair to name some and not name some. But
I think in addition to women, it's a high time we start giving our young people a chance.
But let it be said, the women took the forefront in that thing. There were men there too.
I don't know.
There were men there. Let me just say, I'm just saying.
Right.
But the women, yes, they were the arrowhead.
That's it. I also think that it's a high time old people leave politics and allow the young people to play a part. For a long time, the example we've seen in France, where a 39-year-old is the president. For people like me...
And he didn't even have a party. He didn't even have a political party.
For me, from what I'm seeing, is that anybody above 65-year-old should leave politics to the young people and become a kingmaker. We cannot carry on with all these old people holding us to ransom.
Okay, Mr. ADEGBOYEGA, you're our last caller, calling in from ALAGBADO. Good morning. Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
I don't know that. I'm not sure you're
your line isn't very good, Mr. ADEGBOYEGA.
Hello, can you hear me?
No, we can't.
Hello?
Okay, try.
Okay, what I'm saying is...
Are you on speakerphone?
No.
Okay, go on.
I'm saying, I'm not really sure if there is a lawyer there with me now. I just want to ask, is it very ideal and normal for a standard government like ours to swap innocent girls like that with ferry? And because I think there's a piece of strategies we should be able to decipher in order to find an alternative to rescue these girls rather than swapping them with terrorists. So I just want to know.
Okay, thank you very much. As I said, the line wasn't very good. I don't know if what you did was you cast a vote of confidence, you know, in the government's treatment. If that is what you were saying, that I approve, or whether you were saying I don't approve.
He's saying that he doesn't like a situation where criminals kind of were swapped.
To we should go and find some Christian pastors or Muslim clerics in jail, you know, to swap. I mean, what do they want?
If I should say this, in 33 AD, when Jesus was being tried by Pilate, he brought out a criminal from a prison, and he wanted to swap. So what we are hearing or what we are seeing has been there from time immemorial.
People should realize that even though they are terrorists, they are prisoners of war.
Okay.
And we forget that these are not ordinary criminals.
Okay. They are prisoners of war.
They're actually prisoners of war.
Yes.
And so this swap, that is a further thing for people to understand when they're trying to understand what has come down. We've run out of time, but thank you very much, gentlemen, for giving us the benefit of your perspectives.
Thank you.
Colonel Tony Inyam, retired security consultant, and Dr. Luke Onyekekea, member editorial board of
The Guardian.
Well, he said it himself quickly, The Guardian, before I go and put another paper in there. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing, with a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folari. Bye-bye for now.